we're back. I think everything's rolling now. Finally,
Yeah, trying out a little new thing here
yeah. Well, new thing.
with some video.
Trying to go to a video cast as well as our normal podcast. So, people want to see our handsome, smiling faces.
We've had so many private messages on the Facebook page saying that they want to see.
Yeah.
Like they say the
Nah, we
voices are
haven't.
hot. They know we look good. We must, but they want to see.
Yeah. No. No. We haven't got any of those messages.
Did I dream that?
Yeah. Well, maybe. Maybe you got some private messages on your personal Facebook. I don't know.
I have none.
But,
No.
none. Yeah, neither do I. But our friends have, our friends that have joined us have all, pretty much all of them had said something about, going on YouTube or wherever. So
Yeah, it seems like there's always certain moments in the podcast, where it kind of clicks in your head, like, man, if that should have been on video. That
Yeah.
would have been funny
yeah,
if it could have been on. And
yeah, I think it's good for people to see character traits and, reactions
yeah,
instead of just, hearing our dumb banner.
yeah, facial reactions and things like that, and kind of watch my weight loss progress, hopefully.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
time goes on.
Yeah,
Which
you're
is
looking-
it's not progressing yet.
Oh,
but it's gonna.
well, I thought
You
you.
looked at me like you thought maybe.
Yeah, I thought you looked a little thinner. So.
Well, I've had a decent week of eating, but it's the first decent week in quite a while. I mean, I was on a bad roll,
Yeah.
and this week wasn't perfect, but it was better, and I'm gonna try to stick with that. Actually, I got to play a baseball game in about a month. I haven't played baseball in a long, long time. I played softball.
Yeah.
I haven't played baseball. The new coach at the Red Hill High School decided he's going to put together an alumni game between the current high school team and Red Hill alumni. So he hit me up to see if I'd be interested, and I said yeah, but
So you're about to get smashed by some 16, 17-year-old kids.
well, I might, but I think our team overall is going to be pretty decent.
You think so?
I think we're going to beat these kids. I think we are. And
Who
it
all's
won't be
on it?
because of me. You've got myself. You get Jim Baker graduated in the 70s. I want to say 76, and he actually played some AAA ball. He's gonna pitch a little bit. We'll see how much he's still got it.
Good.
Over 60 years old, but I think he can still get
Yeah.
him. And got myself. Michael Gray is going to play some of the kids from when I was teaching and coaching, in mid 2000s. Some of those kids, and Eric Holtz is going to play, I believe. Coach Seisinger's son, he pitched some in college, so he'll be there. And we're still working on the team. I think we got somewhere between 10 to 12 or so.
Yeah.
Right now, we're trying to get more, but it'll be interesting.
You starting to take steroids and stuff, getting ready, or?
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
steroids,
Yeah.
testosterone.
Good.
Yeah, I don't think that field can hold me. I really don't.
Yeah.
But
Just
I do. The main thing
Uncaged
is,
beast. Yep.
yeah, I'm not gonna get svelte and looking good in a month, but I do need to be able to run all four bases without
Without dying.
without dropping over dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
I think you'll be surprised what you can do in a month, especially when it comes to just 4 bases. But you could probably drop 15 or 20 pounds in a month.
I was estimating I can probably do 20 if I work hard, which kind of seems like a lot, but I have so much excess. It's not it's not like a fighter cutting weight, and they don't have a lot of just excess fat and junk.
Yeah. It's just-
They're in decent shape already, and they're trying to cut the water weight, and they're losing a little bit of muscle too in the process. Like
Yeah.
I have so much crap that I can chop off.
Yeah. Including crap itself. I
Yeah,
assume.
yeah. I
So.
take 6 shits a day.
Yeah. it's amazing what some vegetables and water will do for you, huh?
Yeah, my body doesn't know what to think exactly. Like, I think I actually heard my stomach say, what the fuck is this? But
Yeah,
cool.
I've been eating like shit for the last couple of weeks. I plan to, be back on my diet tomorrow, but we'll see how that goes.
You had been doing well. hadn't
Yeah,
you?
yeah, I had been doing really well with my diet and lifting and training and all that. And then, my brother passed away last week, which, a lot of people already know about. And then, so that's kind of been tough.
It's gonna.
Yeah, been, around the family a lot and, just the stress of it. And then I got strep throat, so that didn't help
Yeah,
anything.
just the whole
Yeah.
system is
Yeah, it's been a vicious
thrown
cycle.
off.
Yeah. So hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully this fatigue is gone from the strep throat, because that's really been like the worst part of it is just the fatigue. Like I wanna go run or I wanna go lift weights, but I just
And
can't.
the
I just
body
don't feel
isn't
like I can
having it.
physically do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just kind of weird, but I don't know. A couple more days, I think I'll be
Back on
100%.
track.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned your brother, and for those, you said a lot of people know, and for those who don't, he was on the podcast a few weeks ago.
Yep.
So, if you haven't, you should check that out. Really good discussion when he came in. I was not here, unfortunately, but I listened to it, and it was a really good discussion. And have a listen to that.
Yeah.
And so when Joey refers to what happened, that's who he's referring to.
Yeah, yeah. It was a really good final conversation, I guess, because that was our actual last conversation.
Mhm.
Now I was in the hospital for his last hours, but he wasn't awake or anything like that. But so yeah, it was good that our last conversation. I actually, oddly enough, got it recorded. And I always have
how
that.
And how many
Yeah.
people can say that?
Yeah, yeah. So that was a blessing, I feel. And yeah, it just all kind of hit quick. He was having some issues with like car sickness and like acid reflux for the past few weeks.
A few weeks.
And like anytime he would get in the car, he would throw up. Like he'd get in the car, drive down the road, throw up. It was really weird. Then he started getting.
This was never before until these last few weeks.
Yeah, yeah. It was just like I believe it was like a 3-week thing, which I didn't know much about it. My mom had mentioned that had been going on,
Mhm.
and he had like really bad acid reflux and heartburn. Well, then he started to kind of swell, and then he ended up like being in so much pain that he just finally was like, well, I've got to go to the ER. So he went to the ER, and they're like, well, you've got pancreatitis, I think is the proper way to
I'm
word
not
it.
100%.
Anyway, so yeah, so they admitted him, and he had a lot of fluid build up. So they were trying to get the fluids off of him, and he was seemed like he was doing okay. My mom had called me and let me know that he was in there, and none of us really thought it was as serious as it was. And I don't even know that he knew that it was as serious as it was.
Right.
And then I believe it was early in the morning, he paged the nurses into his room and said, hey, I can't breathe. Excuse me. So what had happened was there was so much fluid buildup in him, and it was building up so quickly. Like they were trying to get it off, but they just couldn't get it off quick enough.
Yes.
It was actually compressing his lungs, and that's the reason he couldn't breathe.
Mhm.
Well, it wasn't no time later. His blood pressure fell out. His heart started failing, and they did a wonderful job, the staff at the hospital. They revived him, I believe it was like 7 or 8 times. So, yeah, I mean, they revived him a couple of times. They called us, or they called my parents. Parents obviously called me, which was a weird ordeal itself, because it was early in the morning, and it was one of those days where I didn't sleep, or one of those nights I didn't sleep good. Something was unsettling, and I didn't know what it was.
Mhm.
And so I didn't sleep well, and my alarm went off at 4:20 or 4:30, whatever time it was that morning, to get up to go lift weights. But I just didn't get much sleep. I mean, I'm pretty good about getting up out of bed and just going, you know.
Right.
But I just didn't get much sleep. And my alarm's going off. My wife says, "Joey, are you going to get up?" I'm like, "No, just reset it for a couple, you know, I'm going to get a couple more hours of sleep before I got to go to work." So she resets it, and I lay there, and there's just something unsettling, you know.
Yeah.
And for real, these are the words that were going through my head. In David Goggins' voice, "Quit being a bitch. Get up out of bed. Just get up out of bed. Quit being a bitch." Those words kept going through my head. Like, I was really tired and I didn't get much sleep, but there was just something, my brain kept repeating that. "Quit being a bitch. Get up out of bed. Get up out of bed." So I got up out of bed, and I go to do my morning routine. So I grab my phone off the charger, and I set it on the kitchen table. And, you know, usually I'll make, like, I'll take my vitamins and all that, and I drink that Celsius. So I was mixing up my Celsius, getting my granola bar ready. My phone started ringing. I mean, I wasn't up for 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Phone was ringing. So thank God that, you know, I did get up that morning and was able to get the call and
Right.
get in there.
And be a little bit lucid.
Yeah.
You know, not trying to take it out of a dead sleep. Or
Yeah. So got the call, went in, you know. And we got to spend final few hours with him. And like I said, the staff at the hospital did really good. You know, they did their best. They were wanting to do an emergency surgery, but there was just so much inflammation, and his body just wouldn't sustain itself. Like, they couldn't unhook him at all to move him into a surgery room.
Oh.
And then they were like, "Well, we're just going to do a bedside surgery." You know, basically what they wanted to do is they just wanted to open him up and allow everything to kind of hang out to relieve some of that pressure.
off.
Yeah, because his heart was failing and his blood pressure was failing. And what it ended up being was his pancreas was essentially dead. And, you know, when an organ dies or is starting to die, it kind of, your body does some crazy things to protect itself, and that's, you know, where all the inflammation and things
Right.
are coming from. But yeah, his body just wouldn't sustain for any type of surgery. So, you know, thank God that I did get to spend the last few hours with him, and they kept him comfortable until my oldest brother had got there. So that, you know, that was pretty tough for him because he was in Springfield on a job.
Oh.
Yeah, and apparently he had a weird night as well. And it was kind of like another one of those amazing things that he even got the phone call.
The same kind of uneasiness.
It was the same kind of uneasiness. He never has his phone on him on the job. And 10 minutes prior, he was up in a pick line, which is kind of like a, you know, he's a Boilermaker. Or sometimes, you know, he kind of bounces back and forth between pipe fitter work and Boilermaker work. And he was up in what they call a pick line, which, from my understanding, is kind of like it's kind of like an elevator
Okay.
by a single cable, and they'll work out of it. So it's just like a single cable kind of raises and lowers this cradle. And I think he said he was like 22 stories up. And it's not uncommon for him to be in a pick line or whatever. But he said it spun a couple times, and he said that's not really uncommon. But he said there was something about it that just really frustrated him that night.
Right.
He's like, screw this. If they're not going to... The problem is the pick line, where it was mounted, was too far away from where he needed to be. So his partners would have to pull him in with a rope.
Oh.
Like, you know, swing him in to let him work and then let him back out. Well, something had happened where it had spun a couple times, and they were just really having a hard time getting him in to where he needed to be. And he finally got frustrated and said, "Lower me to the ground. I'm done." So I guess as soon as he stepped out, as soon as he hit the ground, stepped out,
And his phone's...
it was me calling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was kind of I think it was just God's way of getting us together
Right.
for his last moments. But yeah, it's been a tough couple weeks. But, you know, at least, like I said, I did get the closure, you know, got to be there.
Right.
And,
I mean, it's a hard thing, and it's something I can't relate to.
Yeah.
And that way, you know, as far as losing loved ones, you know, I haven't ever lost a sibling or anything like that.
Yeah.
And, or for that matter, really nobody unexpected.
Yeah.
You know, but so I can't talk about the pain of that itself, but I think there does have to be some sort of easing and some sort of peace about the idea that you got the closure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
you had things work out just exactly right.
Yeah.
That you could go see them, that you were around the phones, because that's an added frustration. Had you not, had you missed that call, or had your brother missed that call, that's just one more thing on top of everything else.
Yeah.
A stress to add on.
Yep.
To think like, what could I have done different that I could have been there, and what, you run that through your head over and over. Like, if I'd have just done this different, then I could have at least seen him, and you didn't have to do that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So, it's tough, obviously. It was my brother, my big brother. But, like I said, I did get some closure out of it, and there's nothing really anybody could have done. The nurses and the doctors and, I mean, even the surgeons really went above and beyond to try to make it work.
Right.
It just didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things that happen in the world where you can replay over and over what you could have done different to prevent it.
Yeah.
If you're talking about, an accident on the road or something like
Right.
that, if I'd have just left 5 minutes earlier,
Yeah.
or if I, whatever, and sounds like in this case there just wasn't anything.
Yeah, there just wasn't a lot. I mean, just one of those kind of freak things almost, in a way, I guess, because, like I said, the concern wasn't super high when he first went in.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, it wasn't until he became unstable. That call when I can't breathe, and then his heart failed, his blood pressure kept falling out.
Right.
They couldn't really keep him a pulse. That was when it was like, oh crap. But prior to that, he was, I guess he was joking with my mom the day before,
Yeah.
and it really wasn't expected
I mean, you can't
of him
even
to actually pass. Or it wasn't even a thought, to be truthful.
Yeah, it's not one of those things where you can where you think, why didn't you go in sooner?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, tough.
There was no reason
yeah.
to think.
Tough bastard, man, because he would have had to have been in a ton of pain for a while. That's what is kind of crazy about it is I don't know if it would have helped if he would have went in sooner. I have no idea on that. But I guess he was in quite a bit of pain for at least 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's just like, what a tough shit.
Right.
He's just just a little acid reflux.
Right.
No big deal.
Yeah.
He was a wild guy. But I'm thankful for the time I got to spend with him and, the memories we made. And there's really not, well, I'll rewind a little bit. Just the love and outreach that my family and I received from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Just like my friends, like you, and the other guys that have been on the show, and,
Yeah.
just it was amazing some of the people that did actually reach out, I guess is what I'm saying, and like showed some love and
some unexpected.
yeah, and it went a long way, really. And
Yeah.
then as far my brother, we had a showing for him, and just people really went above and beyond to help out with all of that.
Right.
The Bobes really went above and beyond. Just
Yeah.
good friends, man.
It's nice to see that. We've been thinking and praying a lot, and not always certain of what to say or do.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Well,
but
and I
thinking
get it. I
praying.
get it from the outside aspect, because I've had friends that have lost siblings or parents and different things like that, and you want to be there for them the best you can, but it's really hard to know what to say.
Yeah.
Because really, what do you say? What do you say? But the outreach was nice. Like the people actually reaching out and, hey, sorry about your loss, and some people shared some pretty fun memories or different things like that. some of that was pretty nice. Maybe not right at the moment, but like a day or two later after things settled, like reading back, it's like that's pretty cool with most of these people.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. It would be hard in your position to to be even taking all that in and dealing with it
Yeah.
when you're going through what you're going through, and for me there'd be a part of me just kind of like leave me alone.
And I wanted to kind of be that way, but there was just something about there was just I don't know. I guess I just understood what people were trying to do.
Right.
People were really trying to comfort me, and I just kept that in the back of my brain, like, no, they really are. They really do care.
Right.
It was the people that was just like that I don't talk to, never really talk to. That I get like a random message that was like, "What happened?"
Yeah. Don't
it
do
was
that.
it was those things that was just like,
Yeah.
I just didn't respond to none of that.
Don't do that.
But yeah.
I can still remember when I was in junior college, and one of my professors, I don't even know how we got on the topic, but one of my professors was talking about the reason he doesn't tell people who have had something like that happen, why he doesn't tell them, I'm sorry. His name was Pat. And
Yes.
so he said that one time, he was, probably a visitation, and he told the person, I'm really sorry. And they said, well, God damn it, Pat, I'm sorry too. He said,
Wow.
just kind of
Okay.
snapped at him,
Yeah.
and he said, from then on, I thought, like, just maybe that's not the thing to say.
Maybe not.
And
Yeah.
I think
It's just hard to know. It's hard to know what's.
it's hard to know.
You want to try to comfort people, but it's really hard to know what's gonna bother them more than help them.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in something short
Yeah.
that lets them know the door is open. Like, this is the end of the conversation right now, because I know you got a lot of shit going on,
Yeah.
but the door is open for any time
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Want to let stuff out. So
Yeah.
I think there's value in that.
I agree.
But
I agree. But, well, enough of sad, serious business. We're a fun podcast, so
we are.
we're going to get into the fun. Brett, I see that you're driving a Malibu today, so I'm guessing your car's finally in the shop.
My car is in the shop. If you heard my story on the most recently put out podcast, I got touched up by a little bit by semi, and finally got my car in to get worked on. So I've got my little Malibu at the
Which
moment.
you would probably rather just keep it, wouldn't you?
I mean, if I could do it just even Stevens and just
It's a nice car.
yeah, it is a nice car. It's a little long for my garage. I mean, it's not a big car, but I just kind of treated it like, oh, it's about the same size as my other car. I
Yeah.
pulled it in the garage and started to put the garage door down, and it, the sensors made, I hear it going down and then stop and then goes back up, and I was like, am I not in all the way? No, my ass was hanging out. So
Damn it.
it's a little bit bigger, but I do like it okay for a rental car. But I don't know, just something about your own car with the controls that and
Yeah.
it's got my XM radio. I haven't been able to listen to my radio shows here lately. Just a few things I miss about my car. So it should be back soon.
The love stains in the back
The-
seat.
Yeah, taking the blue light and just seeing what I can discover. Or is it black light? Black light.
Yeah,
to
black light.
discover
Yeah,
the-
black light. Yeah, it's amazing what you'd probably find in the back seat of your car,
Yeah.
especially after knowing what we now know of last week's story.
Yeah. Yeah. We did not have any of those this past week. No stories like that. Maybe he kind of caught on to the idea that I noticed.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so or maybe he was just wearing jeans and it's a little harder. It's a little harder to stick your hand down some tight jeans than it is to go up some athletic shorts.
Right.
So maybe it was just too cold. And now that the weather's getting warmer and he starts wearing shorts more,
Uh-oh.
we might have a little more.
Maybe you should just lay like the plastic down in your back seat, like the mattresses come with.
Yeah.
Maybe you should just do that.
I-
I mean, Brett, if you're not going to stop him You're gonna have to do something to
Yeah,
protect
because I
your
can't
back
I can't
seat.
always count on having something noticeable outside to like look back at and be like, oh, that's cool. Eventually, I'm just gonna have to say,
You say,
well, I'm gonna either have to let him go, kind of like Christmas Vacation. The best thing to do is just let him finish.
I don't know about that.
That's-
I think I would be a jerk and like slam on the brakes and scream like we're about to get in an accident. And just slam on the brakes, freak him out. I mean, you're bound to lose a boner.
Yeah, I would
If you
hope.
get scared.
What if that's his thing, though? What if like
What if that's his thing?
there's a movie about that? I didn't see the movie, but I've heard of. I think it's called Crash. We'll have to look that up sometime.
Yeah,
like
I've
late
actually seen
90s.
that. Yeah, it's a independent film.
Okay.
It was actually not a bad movie.
And it wasn't the theme like she gets off on traumatic experiences like that or something?
If I recall correctly, because it's been a while. It's been a while since I watched it. If I recall correctly, there's like a group of them. There's like a group of
Okay.
like teens
Okay.
that, yeah, that's kind of their, it's kind of their thing. Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah. I'll just have to play the odds and hope that's not one of his things.
Yeah, let's hope not. But okay, well, what other fun stuff we got to talk about?
I didn't watch him, but there were some fights last night,
Yeah.
and I saw some of the highlights. Apparently, Ngannou brutally knocked out Stipe to win the heavyweight title.
Don't remind me. Yeah, I hate it. I hate it for Stipe. I really like him. I don't know. I don't know what you know about him, like just
Not
as
a
a
lot
person.
of personal stuff, no.
He's actually a firefighter.
Okay.
Like I believe he's full time. He might just be part time now. Now that he UFC champion or was UFC champion, not after last night. But he's just like a super good guy, and I don't know. Just to listen to his interviews and stuff, he's not a asshole. He's just actually a pretty nice guy. It seems like I really like him, but he is 38 years old, and so anytime you see, an athlete that's been doing that well for that long, he's 38 years old. Anytime somebody like that gets brutally knocked out, it's just kind of hard to watch for me.
Yeah, it's hard to watch, and the decline can happen so rapidly at that age. It's
Yeah, that's
it's not a slow downhill. Like it can be a cliff
yes.
when you get to that age, and you wonder how much does this knockout get in his head, regardless of the physical effects and the like the damage to his brain or whatever. You worry about how it affects him mentally, as far as just is he going to be tentative forever now?
Yeah.
After.
Well, I worry more on the more serious mental side of he's getting older. He's been hit a lot in his lifetime, and at that age and something that brutal, I mean, it really could be life altering.
Yeah.
He may never be the same. I'm not diagnosing the guy. I'm not saying
Right.
anything like that. I'm just saying that I believe it'd be a lot harder to bounce back at 38 years old
Yeah.
from
surely.
a knockout like that than it would be if you're 30 years old or 25 years old.
Yeah.
So I worry a little bit about that, and not that I necessarily want to see him retire, but I don't want to see him do what so many of the other greats have done and just overstay their welcome
Right.
and just never fully mentally recover. The Chuck Liddells and stuff like that. You don't want to see your heroes go out like that.
Right.
If this would be his last fight, I wouldn't really be sad about it. I would like to see him come back and win. I always like to see guys retire on a win,
Right.
but I don't want to see Stipe fighting for another 3-4 years.
Yeah. I get that same uncomfortable feeling when something like that happens. Not a knockout like that. Especially at that age. It makes me nervous, and I shouldn't be nervous because I don't know these people.
Yeah, yeah.
I
But
mean,
you start to get like a little bit of a emotional investment in these people.
Yeah, and just gives me a little bit of that cringy nervousness, like
Yeah.
you're like, don't.
Yeah, we've seen it happen before, and I think that's why we are that way.
Right.
Yeah, when it's somebody you like and you know is probably a genuinely good person, you just don't want to see bad things like that happen.
Right.
But in other news, Sean O'Malley looked pretty dang good. I don't know if you've seen
I
any
did
of the
not see
highlights.
his highlights. No.
Yeah, he had. There was a couple times where he thought he ended up getting a walk-off KO. Was it KO or TKO? I think it was KO. But there was a couple times throughout the fight where he thought he was going to get that walk-off KO.
Yeah. And he's brash.
Yeah.
So
But it seemed like he just did whatever he wanted when he wanted. Pretty impressive. That kid's so talented, man. It's crazy how thin he is with the power he has.
yeah.
You know, you don't always see that out of that particular body type. Like
Yeah.
the flashiness and just the very technical style is not really that surprising, but the power that comes with it, in my opinion, is.
Yeah. He was rolling. Then he, was it his last fight that he got beat? Had a little setback.
You know, I don't know
Or-
that he. I'll have to look into that. I don't actually think he lost. I think it was like a
Okay.
like a no contest or something, wasn't it?
Okay.
I'll have to look. I'll have to read into that a little bit.
I had in my mind a loss, but
But yeah,
but I
he
can't
had some
guarantee
kind of
that.
messed up ankle problem,
yeah,
and
maybe that did get ruled a no contest.
yeah, because I wanted to say that he might be undefeated, but I'll have to check. But either way, he's
he's fun to
durable.
watch.
Yeah, durable, and super talented, and he's entertaining. He's entertaining to listen to.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like
he's
his
got a lot of
interviews.
confidence.
Yeah, I like his interviews, but he's not like a. He's got a lot of confidence, but he's not like a. I don't know, one of those smart ass guys that like talks crap.
Right.
He won last night, and he talked about the durability of his opponent, and how tough he was, and didn't say anything bad about the dude.
Right.
He's not one of those guys,
Yeah.
so I can appreciate that.
Well, we're talking about confident, brash fighters, and I feel kind of ill to use the word fighter in this case, but thoughts on Jake Paul versus Ben Askren boxing? I don't like it one bit.
I don't like it either, and here's why. So Jake is a fucking punk teeny bopper YouTube star,
Right.
and from my understanding, he actually is kind of talented with his hands. He actually apparently possesses some pretty decent boxing skills. But I like Ben Askren, and he's done a lot for wrestling and for MMA,
Mm-hmm.
and he's held championship gold. And be saying the things that Jake's saying about Ben or to Ben, I don't know if you've caught any of that, but it's just like, come on, dude, get real,
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's all promotional, and odds are that Jake guy, I don't know if he's a kid, he's probably about my age, but odds are he's probably an all right guy in person.
Yeah. If
But-
he's not recording on the camera.
Yeah, I'm sure it's all about the money. I really hope Ben knocks him out. I hope Ben somehow has developed some striking skills.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know why he would have been working a lot of striking until this fight was announced, and is that enough time? I don't know, because he's had years in MMA and never really developed much of a striking game.
Well, he's never really needed to.
Right.
Yeah, he's never really needed to. He was blowing through guys just by taking them down, beating them up, So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's never really needed to, but I agree. To me, you always want to train what you're good at, for one. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. You want to get great at what you're good at,
Right.
but you also want to improve the things that you're not so good at.
Yeah.
You gotta level the playing field a little bit, and that's why some of these guys are standout fighters, is because they're particularly good at a certain thing that nobody else can match. They
Right.
might not be the best rounded fighter, like Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor's not the most rounded fighter, but he's a great, great striker. He
Yeah.
really is. He's a good striker.
And unique.
Yes,
Yeah.
and very unique. And nobody else is really like him. And that's why he was so great for so long. And
Yeah.
so that's why Ben Askren was so great at MMA and Khabib, like Khabib,
Mm-hmm.
Habib, however, however the proper way to pronounce it. He was a great, great wrestler, and he didn't have bad striking. It wasn't that his striking was good; it was that his wrestling was so respected that people were so worried about that shot that he would
It opened things
he would
up.
he would throw some really great feints, and it would open some things up for his hands. And,
Mhm.
like we seen Habib tag McGregor,
Right.
which
But if,
in a stand-up match would have probably never have happened.
right, but if 90% of your head is focused on a different thing,
Yeah, exactly.
you might get tagged.
So, what I do think Ben Askren has the edge in, well, a couple of things, honestly. One, just competition overall. He's fought the toughest of the tough fighters
Mm-hmm.
On the biggest stages, so I think that's going to benefit him. I also think that he's going to have surprisingly good head movement because he's already got good head movement as far as slipping punches for takedowns
Right.
and things like that. So I think if his coaching staff does it right, they're just going to work that head movement in with some punches.
Yeah, I think his head movement will be good. I think his stamina will be better. If they just go out and start brawling right off the bat, Jake can catch him, and
Agreed.
it might not be good for Ben. I don't think if they're going to stand toe to toe and just brawl, that's probably not in Ben's favor. But he's smart enough to know how to, play defense a little bit. I want to call it rope-a-dope, but
Yeah. Yeah.
enough defense to take it into the later rounds. And Jake Paul, he fought a basketball player, and then
Nate Robinson, right?
Nate Robinson, and his first fight was some guy. I actually picked the guy up. I was on the way to Circle K to get some gas, and I saw this homeless guy holding a sign, said he needed money, and so I dropped him off at the arena, and he fought Jake Paul for his first fight.
Nice.
So those
Nice.
are the two opponents he's had so far. So I think he'll be tested when he goes into. He can tell you all the lip service he wants about he's training for however many rounds it's supposed to go, but he's never been in an actual fight where he's got somebody testing him and making him work for a length of time.
Agreed. I could see this being a quick night for Jake if it goes his way.
Mm-hmm.
But if not, I see it being a long night. I
And
can
I hope
see
it is.
Ben Askren kind of dragging it out into
Mhm.
maybe the later rounds, maybe even taking a decision win. I think if it ends early, it's going to be via Jake Paul knocking Ben Askren out.
Yeah, I think that's relatively likely, but
It does look like he hits hard. I've watched some of the training videos. I've listened to some people that have actually trained with him. It does look like he has decent hands.
right.
But at the same time, he's going in there with a world champion. I know he's not a world champion in boxing, but nevertheless, he's still a world champion. It would be like me with my amateur career going in there and fighting one of the top guys in the world. And, it's just the odds aren't real great.
Yeah.
The pressure, that's a lot of pressure. I understand that he's a big YouTube star and he has millions of followers and he's kind of used to the media and the crowd and the paparazzi or whatever. I understand that, but it's a little bit different story when you're meeting another man in the ring that's
Right.
willing to kill you, more
and,
or less.
and whether he shows it or admits it or not, he has to know in the back of his head how much difference there is between Askren and his first couple opponents. He has to know, like, okay, I can put on the show, but I know this is light years difference. Now, there's yet even more difference between Askren and a high-level boxer, and I'm so fucking tired of hearing Jake Paul talk about he wants to be a world champion and this and that. Like, dog, you gotta fight actual boxers at some point. You know, even when you got an opponent that's an actual fighter, you still pick the guy with like the least boxing experience in history.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, I'm so tired of hearing him talk about wanting to make this his career and be the best ever. And you know, there's so much difference in boxing between Askren and a high-level boxer, but there's the same difference between Askren and Nate Robinson.
Yes.
So Jake Paul has to know in the back of his head that this is going to be a different thing.
Right. Absolutely. So, dogs are barking.
They saw that Malibu, and it's a stranger.
Yeah.
Stranger danger.
They didn't like it. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I want to see Ben do well. There's just something a little bit unsettling. Like, I could almost see Jake winning. There's just something unsettling about it for me. I want to see Ben do well, and I think that he will. But this is not a fight I'd be willing to bet on.
No, I would hate to see Jake Paul win, but I can't bet against him because it's, you know, if nothing else, he does well at getting opponents, you know, for high dollar matches that don't actually have boxing experience.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, it's Ben being at the American Kickboxing Academy is a big help.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's always hard to root against those guys. I mean, you got, you know, DC, Habib, the Islam, the Habib's boy, who's rising through the ranks. I mean, you've got some, Cain Velasquez. I mean, you've got some really high-level guys in there, and the coaching staff's incredibly high level.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's hard to know what route the coaching staff's going. If I had to guess, like I said, they're going to already utilize the head movement that Ben Askren does have.
Yeah.
And just start, you know, slipping some punches, throwing some I don't really see Ben ever being like a power puncher.
Maybe some dirty boxing.
Maybe some dirty boxing.
A little clinch work.
Yeah, a little clinch work. I could see a lot of that happening, and volume. I think Ben's thing will probably be volume.
Yeah, I think anything, you know. Of course, I'm not a coach, but I almost think the plan has to be all things to wear out Jake. Whether it's punches and volume, whether it's clinch work, you know, just kind of letting Jake punch himself out. Just anything in the interest of making round 3 a bitch.
That's kind of my thoughts. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Not a fight I'm willing to bet on.
No. I won't pay for it either, but I will try to steal it on my Fire Stick for free.
Yeah, my nephew is asking a bit about it, on what he thinks, or what I think he should do as far as betting goes. And I don't think that's one to bet on.
Yeah.
I think just leave that one alone.
Yeah, save that money for I don't know. What is the next big thing? Well, Oscar De La Hoya is coming back. I don't even know who he's fighting, but
yeah, I seen something about that. I don't know who he's fighting either, but yeah, that's kind of interesting. And Tyson's planning on fighting again.
Yeah,
so that's pretty exciting.
I watched Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. and I gotta admit, like, I didn't feel good about it. Like, I was watching him and I just thought, I don't know. I felt sad in a way. It was exciting and I watched it, and more power to you for finding a way to make $1 million. That's great, but it made me uneasy.
It was a little unsettling, but you have to keep in mind it was an exhibition. Yeah, well, my pronunciation's not very good. Either way, wasn't like it was a real fight. From my understanding, listening Tyson, he did try to test the water a little bit, you know, throw in some power punches, and that was pretty clear. He threw some
Mm-hmm.
pretty heavy shots to the body, and he kind of got his confidence back. Like, okay, well maybe I can still do this. So
Right.
his next fight is supposed to be a real fight.
Okay.
So
Well,
that'd
I mean,
be cool.
I'll tune in.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch that. I don't want to see Mike Tyson get beat.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him get hurt. That's another one of those like we were talking about earlier. There's something about it when. I mean, he's a grown man. He should be able to do what he wants. So
Right.
there's just something about when you got a guy that you really like. I've always liked Tyson. He's always been my favorite boxer. I do not want to see him at what is he, 54?
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
54, something like that. 54 years old. I'd
Yeah.
be devastating
I'm
to
the
see
same
him
way.
actually get knocked out. You know.
I'm the same way. You know, I got attached to him, you know, on a professional level. I can't vouch for all of his personal exploits, but
Yeah, well, I agree. I agree with
right.
that.
But I can remember I went into a deep depression. I'm not sure you were alive yet, but when he lost to Buster Douglas, and I found out, I didn't see it happen live, but I found out, and I went to a depression. Like it's not. I mean, I was trying to think of ways to get it overturned because I kept on hearing, you know, you were hearing these rumblings about, well, he would have beat the 10 count, but he picked up his mouthpiece off the floor, and that cost him a couple seconds. And I mean, like, the wheels are turning in my child head. You know, like, we can get this overturned. Like, that's not fair. We can write a letter
Yeah.
and explain the mouthpiece situation.
Yeah. I'm still
And then-
bitter.
Yeah.
I'm still bitter about it. Yeah, man, what was that fight? What, like 91? No.
90 or well,
No, it had to have been later than that.
I would have been 10. I don't think it's much later than that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right at 10 years older than me, so.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I'd have been 1 or 2 probably.
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out came out in like late 80s, and he was right around 30, 31 and 0 at that time. I remember because it had it in the little pamphlet that came with
Oh, yeah? That's
the
awesome.
Nintendo game. Had
Nice.
the records of all the fighters. I think he was like 30 or 31 and 0 in the late 80s. So, you know, so that Douglas fight would have been coming up before too long.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it messed me up. And then, you know, that was when I only knew about the boxing stuff. And then as time went on and, you know, he ran into all the I mean, God, 1,000 problems
Yeah.
in his life. And, like, each time I just kind of, you know, you felt like, you know, watching your friend, like, come on, Mike, no, like, you
Yeah.
know, like, or,
Yeah.
you know, if he was kind of losing his cool in interviews, and then, you know, I'd be over there, like, on the one hand, like, chill, Mike, chill, like, don't make an ass of yourself.
Spinal.
But also, it's Spinal. I broke my back.
It's probably my favorite
back
interview.
is broken.
Yeah.
Spinal. Yeah, those are the moments where I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
come on, baby.
I love that interview so much.
And they're trying to find out, like, what about your back? It's broken.
Yeah.
My back is broken. But yeah, like I get
Did my
attached like
2,500 crunches.
that. Yeah,
Something felt wrong.
yeah, and those old videos of him and Customato.
Yeah, I love those videos.
Yeah, and to see him, I watched an interview with him when he was 19, and just the knowledge he had of boxing history and philosophy and strategy and everything. You know,
Yeah.
most 19-year-olds coming up with the reputation he has, you know, they're kind of like, you know, I just like to get in and bang.
Yeah.
Just, you know, like I want to, you know, I could knock people out with either hand and blah, blah, blah. But, like, he's there talking about, you know, philosophy and whatnot. And, you know, I just really, I root for him a lot. And I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he hasn't pulled
Yeah.
some shenanigans. But I root for him to always, you know, hold his shit together.
Yeah, yeah. That's what we hope for. I'm like you. Especially the Castanado days, like watching the videos and stuff is what's made me become such a big fan.
Mm-hmm.
Just the relationship he and Castanado had, and the way that he was trained. Like Brian kind of pushes that direction on me.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of my striking style is based loosely off Tyson's. Like with my head movement
Right.
and my
You're
explosiveness.
a little shorter.
A little shorter, a little wider for my weight
Mhm.
class, and I can flip the switch on and off with explosiveness pretty
Right.
well. So that kind of helps. Obviously, no one will ever be Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And I'm not comparing myself in any facet to him, but we do try to, do
You
some
can
of the
still emulate.
yeah, we do try to emulate some of the drills and things like that. But also, the card I'm most excited for coming up is April 24th in Florida. I think Jacksonville. Full crowd. Full crowd's coming back,
Oh, nice.
and I am excited. The no crowd thing was pretty cool for a little while, but it's gotten old. The smacks of the punches and
Yeah.
all that was really neat. Hearing the corners, hearing the commentators.
And even the fighters talking to each other.
Yeah, even the fighters talking to each other. The fighters talking to the commentators.
Yeah.
They could actually hear the commentators. I thought that all that was really neat for a while. But then we had some of these big names fighting. Some of these guys that had these just excellent walkouts.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what gets me about the no crowd thing. Israel Adesanya, had one of the most remarkable walkouts I think I've ever seen recently. But there was no crowd. No crowd to hype it up. How much cooler would that walkout have been with a crowd? Just
Yeah.
going crazy. That's what I miss. There's guys like Conor McGregor and Izzy and some of these just special talents. I mean, even Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley's capable of having one of these just electric walkouts because they're bigger than life almost,
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have that with no crowd. They can put on the production and they can do this and that, and it's cool. I can still, respect it. But there's something about like a really special, hyped up walkout.
Yeah,
that
you just have to wonder,
gets
like,
me.
man, how cool would that be
Yeah.
if 20,000 people were, I don't know what these arenas can hold, but, just throwing a number.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
cool would it be if, let's say 10,000 people were here to yell about this?
Yeah. So I'm super excited because on this full crowd card we have Usman and Masvidal too,
Nice.
and I know that crowd's going to be electric over that one.
Oh, yeah.
I believe Thug Rose is fighting the Chinese lady that I can't pronounce.
The one that got the great big goose egg on her head.
The one that caused the great big goose egg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Joanna Jacek got the great big goose egg.
Okay. And it was one of the best fights. And
yeah.
I'll never get her name right.
I'll never get her name right either, so we'll leave it. But that fight's going to be electric, obviously. And then I do believe, I'll have to look, I think Sandhagen and TJ Dillashaw are fighting on that card. But I'll have to, don't fact check me. I'll fact check myself. I'm pretty sure that's going down on that card. So that's exciting. TJ Dillashaw's finally coming back. He's been gone for 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, been a while. Yeah, I'm ready for
The
that
full
card,
crowd,
for that
yeah.
card, that crowd. I'm like you. It was a nice novelty for a while.
yeah,
I kind of felt that way going back to the very first Ultimate Fighter when they had the fights going on within the house.
yeah,
And I was like, oh wow, I hear these punches, like I hear the smack and
yeah.
all the talk, is wild and it's cool, but it's nice for a while and there's a limit, and now I want this crowd.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the Gaethje and Ferguson fight was awesome with no crowd.
Mhm.
It really was, because there was so much action, there was so much smacking and popping, and
Right.
just it was really neat. But that was one of the very first fights with no crowd, so it was still new.
Yeah.
But now it's just gotten old. Now it's like let's get the crowd back.
Yeah. And I try to imagine, uh, like Matt Hughes versus Frank Trigg, when I think it was their second fight, when Trigg had him all but beat, and then Hughes gets out of the submission, gets to his feet, picks up Trigg, and runs him across the entire octagon before he slams him. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember which one
I
I'm
kind
talking
yeah,
about.
I kind of remember that. Was that? How did he finish that fight?
It ended in a rear naked choke, I believe.
Okay.
He was in a choke and looked. He looked finished for a while. I mean, kind of took a low blow from Trigg. Tried to tell the referee he took a low blow. Referee did not stop it, so Trigg pounced, took advantage of it, started beating him up, ground and pound. Ended up getting Hughes in a choke and just all but finished it. And miraculously, Hughes ended up getting out of the choke. And when he stood up, he stood up with Trigg, had him draped over his shoulder, and just ran across the ring and slammed him. And it was the best crowd. I mean, there's probably been better. People would argue with me on this. But for me, that's the best crowd reaction I can recall, when he
Really?
takes off running across the ring and slams him, like that moment. And I'm trying to picture, that with no crowd. I'm like, it kills so much vibe.
Well, back to what I was saying, the best crowd reaction I ever seen was a Conor McGregor walkout. And it was a live performance. And I don't remember the lady's name, but she was basically up on a balcony singing his walkout song.
Nice.
And it was like the most cold chilling, electrifying moment I've ever seen in MMA. I wasn't there. I watched it on TV.
Right.
And it just sent chills through you. And the crowd was just electric.
Yeah, and you're trying to imagine that. I mean, he probably wouldn't have even brought the singer if there was no crowd.
And then so you have, here just, I don't know, a month or two ago, the McGregor-Poirier fight with no crowd.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I mean, I think they
Yeah.
actually had a very limited, maybe some high rollers were there.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, there couldn't have been.
Those aren't the people who make the impact.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And that fight could have been even so much bigger. I mean, which it was a big fight. I don't know what the pay-per-view numbers were on it, but I know it was a gigantic fight.
Right.
Especially during these times where everybody's looking, and the UFC's doing a great job at putting on these big fights because everybody's at home for the most part.
Right.
Most of the stuff's still kind of shut down. I mean, you can go out to eat now, but I think the movie theater finally opened back up around here. But yeah, it's still pretty limited on what people can do, especially in some states. So
Yeah.
I would say the pay-per-view sales are through the roof, and the UFC is doing a really good job at putting on good fights for the times.
I mean, they've got to be hurt a little bit financially, which makes you worry
One would
about.
think, yeah.
Makes you worry about the quality of the cards they can put together. Maybe they can't get as many big names on the same card, but they seem to be pulling it off.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's pretty fun MMA talk. You got any fun MMA stories from your training days?
Well, my first MMA fight, I fought a guy who was a black. Yeah.
Here we go.
No,
We're back at it.
I had to start that direction. Just to, man, I've told a little bit about my limited experience. I know you probably recall some of the days when we were doing some garage training, and I was training with you quite a bit, and but I was also drinking a lot, so I was coming in hungover,
sweating it
possibly
out.
still drunk,
Yeah.
and and boy, that wasn't the place to be, and those weren't the people to be with.
No, it was a hot box in there.
It was a hot box, and it was with people who, would work your ass.
Yeah.
And yeah, I puked a lot on those rocks outside.
I remember.
And in that
Yeah.
grass.
But you weren't the only one. There was a few guys that had done that. But that kind of helped you. That kind of helped you slow your drinking down a little bit, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
It gave you a purpose or a
Gave
goal.
me a purpose. Gave me some motivation. There are obviously 100 reasons why people slow their roll on certain things. But that was a big one because I knew I wanted to, if I was gonna get into that, I wanted to do it properly.
Right.
And I didn't want to come in there and just be a fucking slob. Just
Yeah.
just a nuisance. Just a body that's in there, just sweating booze. And I wanted to be a contributor, and I wanted to improve myself. So it helped. And of course, if I was going to take an actual fight, which at the time, that was in the cards.
Yeah.
That was the idea, is that I would fight. So, it was good motivation for chilling my shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was a couple of times that, because that was when I first started drinking quite a bit back in those days. There was a few times I came in there pretty hungover.
Yeah, that's not fun.
And if Corey knew, Moon,
Uh-huh.
if he knew that I was hungover, he would make it that much harder on me that day.
Yeah, and that's how it was for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't too hard to tell for me. So it would be a little extra.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah, the hardest I've ever been hit to this day still happened in that garage.
Which was?
Ricky Farrar.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's a 135-pounder, and he now trains at Dan Henderson's.
It's in
And
California. What city is that?
I mean, he and I talk here and there, and I don't remember what city that is in. But he lives with Sam Alvey now.
Okay.
But at the time, he was just an amateur fighter as well, and he was going to college here. And that's how we'd kind of linked up. We ran into each other at a fight. Like, he and I fought the same night, and we got to talking, just kind of hit it off a little bit. Also, one of the guys that was training with us, Kramer, was going to VU and had met Ricky,
Mm-hmm.
and they became pretty good friends. Well, Ricky was actually like the club leader. VU had an MMA club.
I vaguely remember that.
So Ricky kind of ran it, and Kramer, when he wasn't training with us, was, after classes or whatever, he would go to the MMA club. And so we got linked up there, and we ended up becoming really good friends. Just a solid person, But anyhow, he had a lot of fights, had a lot of experience, and I had quite a bit of experience, but not that many fights.
Right.
And we sparred a lot in those days. We sparred way more than we ever should have. You recall.
Yeah, I remember those days.
I mean, there was so much sparring, unnecessarily hard sparring.
and sometimes that would be the entirety of the training session.
Yes.
Was just
Yeah.
sparring.
Yeah, we way over sparred. And anyhow, one day, Ricky and I were sparring, and we were supposed to be going kind of light. And we were, for the most part. But you know how it goes. Somebody gets tagged, it gets picked up a little bit. They get tagged, it picks up a little bit. And it had just kind of gotten picked up
Mm-hmm.
and elevated. Well, he had threw... I'm trying to remember what it was. I believe he just threw a kick. Yeah, he had threw a head kick at me. And instead of just big-nosing it and blocking it, I went under it. And by golly, when I came up, there was a spinning back fist. And so it was like as soon as his foot planted, pow, that spinning back fist.
Did you see it coming, or
No, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
That was the problem, is I didn't see it coming. Or maybe I did it the last second, because I think my glove actually stopped some of the blow,
yeah,
which, so I didn't get knocked out, but it hit me just like all across my face, like forearm, fist. Like I was just in that weird position where it had just cracked me. Like wobbled me. I didn't know where I was at for a few seconds. We continued to spar, and it took me a little bit to get my bearings back, whatever. But still to this day, probably the hardest I've ever been hit. I remember after the training session was over, excuse me, for the rest of the training session, I was just in like a haze, like a fog. Like I just couldn't get my thoughts together. And I was like daydreaming a lot.
probably concussed.
Yeah. So it was a hot box in there. It was probably 90 degrees that day. We didn't have any air conditioning going, anything like that. So probably like 95 to 98 in the garage.
Right.
And so immediately, anytime I'd get done training there, I'd hop in the shower. You gotta get that bacteria off.
Right.
And hopped in the shower. I remember pretty clearly. I was in the shower and I was just really in and out. It was like I was there, but I wasn't there, and I was just having like mini like daydreams. I don't know have you ever been choked unconscious?
No.
So anytime that I've ever been choked unconscious, I would have like this mini dream while I was out, and it was a lot like that while I was standing in the shower, just like these, just real in and out. And for like a full day, I was like that, just like.
Yeah, you got concussed.
Yeah, I couldn't get my bearings back together. But that was probably the hardest I've ever been hit. I mean, oddly enough, probably the second hardest I've ever been hit was by a guy that only weighs like 125 pounds.
Dang.
And he's a kung fu guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I work with the guy. He's a really good guy. And he trains some type of traditional art. It might not be kung fu. But the way he's trained it, his basically entire life, was not like your traditional way of just your form, in the air.
Right.
He's got Wing Chun dummy, and when he's in the class, they do a lot of real sparring. Like no gloves,
Okay.
no pads,
Okay.
like actual fighting in the gym. And he had hit me up about wanting to train, so I brought him into Anvil, and we were training, and we were going relatively light. Well, with his stance, it wasn't very difficult for me to just leg kick, leg kick, leg kick, leg kick, leg kick. Just chop, 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 chop. But his hands were really fast, the Wing Chun dummy stuff. So if I lingered with a jab or anything like that, he would parry it and then
smack.
Yeah, and then smack. I got a little bit lazy because I got really comfortable I was mostly landing whatever kick I wanted to land, because after I hit him a few times with my hands, he'd kind of got worried about them, that I'd, chop the legs, and then I go to the body, and then I just keep it going. And he was more of a defensive fighter.
Right.
So I got a little bit too comfortable, and I don't recall what exactly it was that I did, but he wasn't in 16-ounce gloves. He was in like 8-ounce bag gloves, and they were at least 10 years old because they were sponsorship gloves of mine that I got back in like, well, not 10 years old. I got them back in 2012. So, yeah, 8 years old, 8 or 9 years old. Anyhow, next thing I know, he just cracked me. Whack. And I thought he elbowed me because it cut me and everything. And it didn't knock me out, but it definitely rattled the old brain real bad. Like,
not a lot of padding left.
Yeah, and that was kind of the same, which we continued sparring or whatever after that. It wasn't like a major ordeal. But the reason I say it was probably the second hardest I've been hit is because the same thing, I felt like really concussed for about 24 hours, just that in and out. I mean, I've been cracked really hard before and been knocked silly. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times, but there's only been a couple times that it like lingered. So that's kind of how I base my judgment on how hard I've been hit.
Right.
It's like, how long does it linger? And
Yeah.
do I have these lasting side effects of just that loopy, not really?
That's kind of how I do it. Is I can recall the immediate aftermath of it. It's not necessarily the moment of impact, but it's the immediate aftermath. Like, how weird did I feel?
Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of how I judge how hard I've been hit.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a wrong judgment. Maybe it's just clean. Maybe I just got hit cleaner those two times.
It could be that.
Because I definitely know that, like, guys like Corey or Brian have just completely rocked my world before.
Yeah, just hit.
But I don't ever really recall Corey concussing me
Yeah.
like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Corey never really tried to either.
Yeah, not trying to, and also, you're respecting his power, and you're maybe not as comfortable.
Yeah.
Got your guard up a little more. There's a lot of things that go into it.
Yeah.
I know he caught my ear one time. Corey did. It's one of the first. I mean, he was probably still a teenager, probably still 19 years old or so, and we were sparring, and it was a hook, and I'm sure it was meant to go to my face, but it just caught my ear somehow, and I went deaf for probably a good 10 minutes, and I just
Never had that one happen.
it just like it hit my ear, and I heard that drone in my ear, almost like I was listening to a seashell, and or like if you ever have an ear infection where you end up not being able to hear anything out of that one ear.
Right.
It was like that for about 10 minutes.
That's scary.
And so it was scary, and of course at the time I was probably mid-20s at the time.
Yeah.
And has that been 15 years?
Yeah.
So probably mid-20s, and had a little more pride.
Yeah.
Nowadays I'd be like, well, nope.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm gonna sit down.
Yeah.
But back then I had a little more pride, and didn't want to act like anybody got better of me.
Exactly.
And so I kept going, but in my mind, my mind was 50% on the sparring session and 50% on, I hope this isn't fucking permanent.
Well, when something bad like that happens to me, my mind is like 10% on the sparring session and like 90% just daydreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like butterflies and
Yeah.
whatever else is going on through my brain.
Then there was a time when I was first starting. I first started Muay Thai when I was in college, so I was about 20 at the time, and I was pretty much a beginner. And I went to this ACS martial arts in Evansville, and it eventually became Big Bully, and then maybe morphed into something else now. But
Not familiar.
At the time, it was ACS, and they had some really, really good Muay Thai instructors.
Yeah.
And also some really good Muay Thai fighters. It was interesting because they didn't have a ton of MMA fighters at that gym. Some, but not a ton.
Well, it was probably still pretty new back then.
Yeah, you had Scott Hensey, you had Joe Bays, guys like that were
yeah.
fighting. They were fighting MMA out of that gym, but most of the guys were strictly just doing the Muay Thai classes. Might do a Golden Gloves competition, something like that, but mostly just training Muay
And I
Thai.
assume all the MMA fighters were probably fighting for hook and shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hook and shoot guy. I
What
mean,
a legendary promotion.
I know. I have so many DVDs of hook and shoot. Like,
Yeah.
uh,
I not to interrupt, but I always enjoyed the antics
yeah,
at the hook and shoot events where they would just like they'd get the T-shirt launchers out and they would throw DVDs,
yeah,
just like old, like 90s almost fight DVDs.
yeah. They had some like underground bare knuckle shit that they end up making DVDs out of.
Really? I didn't know
I'll
that.
try to bring one next time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll bring the DVD player out and we'll.
Yeah, they had I'm trying to think if they even called it hook and shoot at the time, but it was those guys.
Yeah.
And that hook and shoot was fantastic. So
Yeah, I
the
love it.
guys there who fought MMA were fighting for hook and shoot. Although Scott Hensey at the time had established himself enough, and Aaron Riley was there up until right before I started training there. But he had moved on to a bigger city, a bigger gym right before I started going there. But you had some guys who were traveling around the world to fight. But there were also some guys who were really, really good at strictly Muay Thai, and I was kind of just starting out. And one day we had a sparring session, and his name was Kurt, and I want to say his last name was Davies, but I can't guarantee that. Big blonde-headed guy, pretty good, pretty big and strong, and he knew what he was doing, and we were sparring, and I don't think he meant to. He wasn't picking on me, being new. I don't think he meant to just smash me.
Well,
but
it's hard to know.
yeah, I can't say for sure.
There is a thing, such as mat enforcers, and it's kind of their job is to give the new guy a hard time at least to see if he's gonna stick around.
And that could have been it. And this was one of the first times we had sparred there. They did a lot of drilling. They ran classes and did a lot of drills. And, you didn't necessarily spar every time.
Yeah.
So it was one of my first sparring sessions. And it could have been testing me out like, can he hack it?
Yeah.
Is he going to keep coming back?
Yeah, that's a thing. It really is. I mean, we do it at Anvil a little bit, and I think every gym does it. I think you have your guys that are mat enforcers, and sometimes it might not necessarily be said, but that's essentially what they are.
Maybe just known.
Yeah.
Like,
they're
maybe just known. Like Kurt, give him something. Give him a little something.
Yeah.
And
There's been some times where Brian's done that with a few of us guys, some more experienced guys, of like, hey, let's push this guy just a little bit. Let's see what he's going to be.
Right.
Is he going to come back tomorrow? Does he have the heart to be a competitor?
Right.
Because, a lot of times people come in and they really don't know who they are or what they want to be. They don't know if they just want to train for competence, or they don't know if they want to train to be a fighter or, a competitor, like for jiu-jitsu or whatever.
Right.
So sometimes Brian will be like, just lay it in there a little bit.
Yeah, amp it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could have been that. I don't know. But either way, he popped me in my left eye, and I kind of stumbled back. And, of course, that same mentality. Like, it wasn't the same thing where, like, I'm in my mid-20s and, I've got too much pride. It wasn't really a pride thing. It was, don't be a bitch. Like, because I'm new here.
That voice that was in my head.
Yeah, it's the same guy. Yeah, I'm fairly new there, and being 20 years old, I'm young, and I didn't want them to think like, oh, god damn it, kid, like, quit being a little pussy. So I stumbled back, and then I started coming back forward, and I was probably looking drunk the way I was walking, and so I started to engage again, and the guy who had hit me, Kurt, he kind of drops his glove and looked at the instructor. The instructor that was there that night was Steve Pierce, and he kind of looks at Steve, dropped his gloves, and looked at Steve as if to say, like, you gonna let this continue? Like, you sure? And Steve Pierce, then he says, whoa, no. Like, he could see the way I was drunk walking.
Yeah.
And he could also see that my eye already was swelling up, like, immediately. I had, like, it wasn't very long at all, and it was completely shut, just black, and it stayed black for a long, long time. And but yeah, he could see, like, wow, his eye is closing, like, right now, and he's stumbling. So they sat me down and told me to chill a little bit. But I did go back, but yeah, it was a tough shot. I mean, I can if I poke it right here, it still hurts. It
really.
Yeah.
I wonder if it. Well, that's not your orbital. Your orbital's above that, right? So. Yeah, who knows?
Whatever this is, this bone.
It's just like your cheekbone, right?
I guess. Yeah, but it hurts to touch it still.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, tough stuff.
Built character.
Yeah, my well, when I first started in martial arts, obviously I started in Taekwondo. We've talked about it many times. Once I became a little bit established, I was there for years and years. I think I was I was 15 when I got my black belt. So once I got my black belt, it was like the whole demeanor had changed toward me a little bit
From higher ups or from
from all over.
everybody?
Yeah, from all over. So we'd get college students. I was 15, but it's a college town, and we would actually get like athletic college students that would come in there, and they'd start to rank up and get into some of the earlier belts. Obviously, everybody starts as a white belt,
Mm-hmm.
but you couldn't spar until you got your second or third belt there. You couldn't do any sparring until you got your second or third belt, and it was basically no contact sparring. Yeah. It was like you touch, but sometimes things slip. You can't control everything.
Right.
But once I 15 years old, once I got my black belt, I was sparring with all these older guys, these like 19 to 40-year-old guys, and they didn't see me. Well, maybe it was a cross. Maybe that was the problem. They see me both as a black belt, but also as a 15-year-old kid.
Right.
So it's like,
And
they were
probably seeing you as like you probably think you're hot shit, don't you, kid?
yeah, maybe. And I still kind of remember it was funny. They would be going really hard on me, and the instant I would start going hard back, the instructors would be like, Joey, no contact, no contact.
Yeah.
Like, dude, they're punching me in the face. No contact. So I had to deal with that quite a bit once I got my black belt. It was just like a lot of them go, like these adult men, I was 15, these adult men going as hard as they could. And then me having to control my contact.
Told
It's like,
to tone
gosh.
it down.
But, and then, when I got the Joey's place, Joey's was pretty legit. There were some pretty, it wasn't open super long, but there were some pretty decent guys in there, and I was the youngest guy there. So fast forward basically a year, I was 16, started going to Joey's MMA class,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure I was the youngest guy there. There was a couple other high school kids that ended up showing up over time,
Yeah.
but I get put with a lot of adults there. Man, I remember Josh Carey.
Yeah.
He kicked the shit out of me one night. He's I want to say I think he was 20 or 21 at the time. And I was 16. Oh man, like the first time I had to spar. I had to spar with, well, I think I had to spar with Corey. I think I had to spar with you, and I think I had to spar with Josh Carey that night. And I just got the dog. You were the easiest part, and you just because I think you felt bad for me.
Well, I mean, I didn't like to.
I didn't. I'm not saying you were easy. Like I got over on you. It was just like easier on the beating.
Right.
I just didn't get beat as bad. But oh man, I remember Corey and Josh had to spar, and I just remember Corey chasing Josh down the mat, like punching him. Josh rolled backwards, sprung up. As soon as he sprung up, Corey hit him 4 or 5 more times. It was just like, what the heck is happening here? And then it was my turn to spar with Josh, and I'm assuming that he needed that come up a little bit after having to spar with Corey. Oh, man.
A little.
Dude, he hit me so hard so many times. I ended up having to get a root canal.
Dang.
Yeah, because he,
Man.
screwed my tooth up. Yeah, that was a tough night for me.
Yeah.
But
Daniel Hopper pushed my teeth back in Joey's gym one time.
yeah, Daniel Hopper was pretty good.
That was with we were 4-ounce gloves sparring, and he pushed my whole top row of teeth back.
Yeah, tough times.
I know. Sorry,
Man, how we've came along.
we have things were very interesting.
Yeah.
I can remember a night a kid came in. I call him a kid. He was probably 20-ish or so, and he came in with an older guy that he worked with. I think he worked for this older guy, and this older guy actually had a son who was in my class and played football for me when I was teaching and coaching at the time. And so he knew me a little bit, knew who I was, and so he was talking to me and saying, like, you know, this kid's he's tough. He wants to fight. He's really tough. He's like, he beat up. I'm not going to drop names because it might embarrass him, but two of our better football players. He said he beat up so and so and so and so at the same time at like McDonald's, like they had a fight at McDonald's and Benson's or something. Beat them both up at the same time. Like, you know, he's tough, and I'm like, oh, cool. Maybe he's got potential. And so we were rolling, and he had no concept of how to just, you know, like roll and learn and work techniques and everything. Like, he was just like balls to the wall, 100%. But he knew no submissions. He knew nothing. He was just like going fast to be fast, and like,
Right.
but like couldn't finish. He was just like being fast for what? I don't know. But going super hard, and I got pretty frustrated with it, and I told Joey, like, we weren't going to spar stand-up that night. And I told Joey, can we put on the gloves? and he said, yeah, because he could see that it was, you know, this kid needed to,
Yeah.
you know. And
he needed it. Yeah, you run into that.
So he said, yeah, we'll put on the gloves. So we put on the gloves, and Joey said what he has to say. You know, it was like, you know, light sparring, you know, 50 to 75%. We both said okay, and I knew this kid doesn't know 50 to 75%. So I started out pretty easy, and I knew the first punch he throws is going to be 100%, and it was. And so, like, I'm already a little irritated with the kid, and you know, you got to remember, at the time I was a lot better.
Yeah.
So
And younger.
and younger, yeah. So that first punch, he just unloads it all the way back from Japan, and like and tries to like break my face. And so I just kind of dodged it because, like I said, he loaded it forever.
Right.
So I just kind of stepped back, dodge it, and I decided, like, that was my cue. Like, okay, fuck 50% because he's not. So I put it on him real bad. And I think the rounds were probably supposed to be like 3-minute rounds.
Yeah, probably.
But Joey was on the clock, and I think he might have let it go past. I think he might have turned the timer off.
Yeah, it sounds like a Joey
because,
move.
Yeah, I can't guarantee that. I don't want to accuse him, but it went for a while, and I put it on him pretty bad. And then when it was done, I kind of went over to the older guy that he had come with that was like talking him up and talking about he beat up this guy and this guy. And I went over there and I said, it's not quite the same thing as...
Yeah.
And I named
fighting
yeah.
fighting at McDonald's.
It's not quite the same thing,
Yeah,
is it?
It's a little different.
He just shook his head. No.
I guess not. Well, that's pretty fun, man. I think we covered a lot today.
Yeah, talked about the professionals, talked about the amateurs like us.
Yeah. Yeah, the shitbags like us, and yeah, next week I think we got a few more people coming on. It was just weird timing with everything going on.
Yeah.
Me having strep, I had to make sure that I wasn't contagious before I could have anybody out.
Right.
So that kind of pushed people's plans back, and then
Yeah, just
you know how it goes.
Just wasn't easy scheduling.
No, not at all. But next week we're gonna have a crowd in here probably.
Good. That'll be a good test for the video.
For the video, yeah. We might
Yeah.
have to get a second camera
Yeah.
so we can get crowd reactions back there on the couch.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we need to be able to face
Yeah,
over there
yeah.
as well. I mean, I know people like our faces, but they want to see crowd reaction, just
Yeah.
like we were talking about with UFC.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, everybody wants to see the shitty faces that are being made at us as we say dumb stuff.
Yeah.
So at least when we go on YouTube, we don't have to see people's shitty faces that are, like the reactions to what we're
Right.
saying. And we don't even actually have to read the comments.
Yeah, we can disable them. We'll see. We'll see how polite they are.
Yeah. I mean, if they're nice comments, we'll read them, but
Yeah.
not dealing with
Well, since I go by my middle name, I'll get on YouTube commenting as my first name.
There we go.
And it'll be like a stranger. Like, wow, this is the best podcast I've ever seen.
Well, hopefully that works.